Aloha, everyone. Welcome to the Lava channel. This is Market Take for Thursday, July 27th, 2023. Got a lot to go over, and it's time for work. I tried to process this once. It didn't quite go through. I think I spoke too much, so my apologies for that. So, as we can see on the market set, after the Fed speech yesterday, markets seem convinced that the Fed is going to pivot soon, or at least start easing on the hikes. So even though the IMF, Christine Lagarde, came out saying that they will hike rates in lockstep with the Federal Reserve, the dollar is still losing more relative strength, and markets are continuing to basically advance. They look a little red in the pre market, but right now it's generally risk on again, and this floats asset prices. So, as we can see, gold, oil, commodities going up, the futures for silver going green. We're watching the US 10-year coming up, and the dollar, as it's going down, is kind of floating all these markets. So, these are down, but only slightly, the indices. And Bitcoin's still under pressure, but it's recovered a bit. Still hasn't hit that 30,000 level and gone above yet. We've also got XRP still under a bit of pressure. So I'm kind of speeding through this. The dollar dropping. We've got some Fed news today. This is the economic calendar numbers that we're looking at for the Fed. So initial jobless claims, durable goods orders, as you can see, our GDP advanced report, trade balance, retail, and then also going to be watching these pending home sales at 10 a.m. So the Fed says they're going to be data dependent. So we're back to kind of watching these larger reports that come out. So as I said, the European Central Bank said they're set to follow the Fed hike. And also the other news they're talking about is that Meta yesterday surged. They just the markets blew off another hike. So normally the usual spiral model for stocks is in a downward direction. Right now, it seems we are seeing the reverse, at least for now. So we've got a trend that I think is going to be continuing here. As we watch this GDP data, they think the US will avoid a recession. We're getting all this narrative now. The Fed staff no longer predicts a recession as inflation is cooling. But the unemployment, I think this is my choice of a trend to continue. The unemployment increase. So on this, many tech workers, they're set to quit in the next 6 months. So on the surface, that looks like no big deal. Tech workers are going to quit, but it's because they know that AI is coming and they're expecting their jobs will be cut because they are the ones on the forefront. So we also had a quote from the CEO from Home Depot talking about, he brings up kind of a key point, how everyone was excited about the jobs report because it was so wonderful until you break it down. He brought it up that over 60,000 of those were government jobs. So if you actually look at it again, manufacturing was down 2,000 jobs. So when American businesses struggle, everyday citizens will feel the impact. And of course, because government jobs don't produce anything. So they are paid by taxpayer dollars, by real jobs that are producing something. And you always have to keep that balance of how they're paid. So right now, I just want to give a quick note and reminder, if you haven't yet, but you like any of this, please consider hitting that like button. I would really appreciate it. So now I would like to move on to our reality checks for the long term. Aside from the unemployment, the Central Budget Office, they're also predicting that the economy will avoid recession, but saying unemployment will near 5% in the next year. So some things that don't go along with that narrative. Yellow may file bankruptcy this week. They made their deal with the trucking. So for now, we'll keep on, but that's a slow spiral down. And United Auto Workers are about to strike as well. There's several other companies, and unemployment is increasing. We've also got Bud Light parent Anheuser-Busch. They have laid off hundreds of workers due to large losses with their little faux pas with Bud Light. There was basically a boycott there, and it cost them so much. They are dialing everything back. So we're going to look to our harbinger for a moment, and that is the UK. Their retail sales slid at a fastest pace in more than a year. That was a report put out by Reuters. So I like to keep my eye on some other things going on because it kind of tells us the real picture. So we've got a couple of political shakeups I want to bring up because I think this is it's being seen in the wrong way, or there's other ways to look at this. They are looking at MoneyWise put out this report that senators are proposing a law that bans members of Congress and executive officials, including the president, from trading. So that's one view, that as soon as they are banned from trading, that they will crash. Maybe that's correct. But the political shakeup that's going on, McConnell appears is having health issues. It looks like he had a stroke. He's going to be replaced soon as the head of the Republican sector there. That's a large position. It was quite a bit to get him there. We've also got this issue going on with Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Gang. That was an odd thing. They fired him, but he kind of quiet quit because he disappeared mysteriously. We'll see what happens with that. On another front, Pacific Island Group of Palau started their stablecoin, separate stablecoin, not using XRP, but they're using Ripple to run it on. And meanwhile, my cousins in Tonga are looking to start using Bitcoin as currency, joining El Salvador and others. So a lot of them are coming off of this dollar type of standard. So on the back of this, I have another story that I thought was of interest being taken the wrong way, and there's so much more between the lines. So Macron, the French president, is warning against new imperialism in the Pacific. So as I brought this up, this was probably last week when he made his vie for China's votes and support for France, and he's trying to sell off some of his companies. Well, I'm thinking it probably didn't go very well. So as it says, France, who has island territory spanning the Indo Pacific, including French Polynesia, has boosted defense ties with India in the region as a move to counter Chinese influence. So it's very interesting in the back of that. So he went to Vanuatu, and speaking about uh, everything that's going on with the Pacific Islands, what he's basically trying to get at is that his take is that they are threatening the sovereignty of a lot of these smaller islands. So basically, he wants to save them for France because he never named a country in particular, as this says. There's more between the lines, as I'm saying, getting more. First, because of predation of big powers, and they're talking about fishing illegally here. So that's the guys, that's the front story garbage they're handing out. And while, don't get me wrong, the fishing is an issue, and we do need to look at that, but they're using that as a smokescreen. So Pacific Island nations are being courted by China, major infrastructure lender, who struck a security pact with Solomon Islands last year, and the United States, which is reopening embassies closed since the Cold War. Here's the key right here. These Solomon Islands and many of the Pacific Islands, they are the stepping stone in between Asia and the United States of America. They're huge for shipping, they are huge for trade, and they know this. So they're trying to get their foothold there. So, China being a major infrastructure lender to the Pacific Islands as well as around the world, Vanuatu's largest creditor is China's Exim Bank. So, this is according to the International Monetary Fund, the International Mafia Fund. So, what is going on is China was offering to do loans to build large infrastructure, mostly large ports on these islands and in key areas. And so when these small islands could not pay back the loans to China with interest, then China would go in and say, okay, well, you don't have to pay us back, but now, we're just going to take back this port and you can use it, but we will have free use of it for our military and civilian use. As you can figure out, that's quite a move. So now this is saying Washington stepping up U.S. Coast Guard patrols and surveillance for illegal fishing in Pacific Islands. over this concern. That's the garbage front running story. So Macron now wants to go to Papua and then also after Vanuatu after the US Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, who is there Thursday. US and Papua New Guinea signed a defense agreement. So basically, Washington wants to refurbish the ports now in Papua New Guinea and airports for military and civilian use. I bolded these because I think those are the between the lines that we really need to pay attention to. So the US and allies are seeking to deter the Pacific Island nations from getting security ties with China. They're saying that it's over Taiwan and fishing. We know that once these economic so-called the rate hikes and all of the other theater that they are giving us kind of end up when they fail in what they're doing, they go to war. So I'm going to be watching stories like this so I can keep you kind of ahead of this type of stuff going on. I do want everyone to use. So with that, I got to get going. I want to get this out there. It's going on very long, but I have a quick question for Ken if you're watching, please. I liked a quote that you left in the comments saying a hot cup of Java and lava news. I really like that. Does anyone else like that? And please let me know if I can use that. With that, I wish you all a green trading day or just a wonderful day in general. And until then, my friends, stay free.